If Arthur M. Schlesinger Jr., a Kennedy confidant and author of 1,000 Days, John F. Kennedy in the White House was right, the president's views on many issues were evolving. In trying to find Kennedy's most evolved ideas about America and its place in the world, I was able to locate a copy of the speech that he was to deliver at the Dallas Trade Mart on November 22, 1963. As most of you know, President Kennedy was shot and killed en route to deliver that speech. I was most curious about his views on domestic politics, spending and economic growth, purpose of education, taxes, national defense, the rationale for the space program, and his views on America's place or role in a global context. By answering those queries, we can catch a glimpse of America's priorities in the early to mid-1960s. I hope you'll join me. It seems that political pundits are always putting forth the notion that the other side never offers a solution for the real and imagined problems facing the country. I wonder if JFK saw the same situation in his time. After all, he was beginning his campaign for the 1964 election. And he said, "There will always be dissident voices heard in the land, expressing opposition without alternative, finding fault but never favor, perceiving gloom on every side and seeking influence without responsibility. Those voices are inevitable." End of quote. I think we can all relate to that description. Here's what JFK was planning to say on the topic of bigger government. At a time when the national debt is steadily being reduced in terms of its burden on the economy, they view the debt as the single greatest threat to our security. At a time when we are steadily reducing the number of federal employees serving every 1,000 citizens, they fear those supposed hordes of civil servants far more than the actual hordes of opposing armies. It is clear, therefore, that we are strengthening our security as well as our economy by our recent record increases in national income and output, by surging ahead of most of Western Europe in the rate of business expansion and the margin of corporate profits, by maintaining a more stable level of prices than almost any of our overseas competitors, and by cutting personal and corporate income taxes by some $111 billion. With an eye toward producing the longest and strongest expansion in our peacetime economic history. It seems that JFK believed that lower corporate and personal taxes were spurring a stronger economy. As I read his speech, I wondered if he, JFK, considered other factors in growing the national economy. By giving a shout out to the Graduate Research Center of the Southwest, he showed his thoughts on the purpose of education, research, and development. And I quote, "It is fitting that these two symbols of Dallas progress are united in the sponsorship of this meeting, for they represent the best qualities, I am told, of leadership and learning in this city. And leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. The advancement of learning depends on community leadership for financial political support, and the products of that learning, in turn, are essential to leadership's hopes for continued progress and prosperity. It is not a coincidence that those communities possessing the best in research and graduate facilities, from MIT to Caltech, tend to attract new and growing industries. I congratulate those of you here in Dallas who have recognized these basic facts through the creation of the unique and forward-looking Graduate Research Center." With his focus on managing the budget and stressing the role of education in furthering economic development, I wondered how JFK saw national security. It turns out that he addressed that topic in his speech as well. And I quote, "I want to discuss with you today the status of our security because this question clearly calls for the most responsible qualities of leadership and the most enlightened products of scholarship. For this nation's strength and security are not easily or cheaply obtained, nor are they quickly and simply explained. There are many kinds of strength, and no one kind will suffice. Overwhelming nuclear strength cannot stop a guerrilla war. Formal pacts of alliance cannot stop internal subversion." Although he was speaking about the continued support for the voice of America, he understood that the power of the ballot and the forces that are at work within a country could destabilize it. And I quote, "I have spoken of strength largely in terms of deterrence and resistance of aggression and attack. But in today's world, freedom can be lost without a shot being fired by ballots as well as bullets. The success of our leadership is dependent upon respect for our mission in the world as well as our missiles." on a clear recognition of the virtues of freedom as well as the evils of tyranny. End of quote. The president would have continued along that line of thought in discussing freedom through strength, and I quote, "In this administration also it has been necessary at times to issue specific warnings that we could not stand by and watch the communists conquer Laos by force, or intervene in the Congo, or swallow West Berlin, or maintain offensive missiles on Cuba. But while our goals were at least temporarily obtained in these and other instances, our successful defense of freedom was not due to the words we used, but to the strength we stood ready to use on behalf of the principles we stand ready to defend. Our security is further enhanced by the steps we have taken regarding these weapons to improve the speed and certainty of their response, their readiness at all times to respond, their ability to survive an attack, and their ability to carefully be controlled and directed through secure command operations. This nation is prepared, as never before, to move substantial numbers of men in surprisingly little time to advanced positions anywhere in the world. We have increased by 175% the procurement of airlift aircraft, and we have already achieved a 75% increase in our existing strategic airlift capabilities. Finally, moving beyond the traditional roles of our military forces, we have achieved an increase of nearly 600% in our special forces, those forces that are prepared to work with our allies and friends against the guerrillas, saboteurs, insurgents, and assassins who threaten freedom in a less direct but equally dangerous manner." End of quote. Kennedy was a champion and proponent of America's potential. The undelivered speech addresses the costs and purpose of the space program, and I quote, "This effort is expensive, but it pays its own way, for freedom and for America. For there is no longer any fear in the free world that the communist lead in space will become a permanent assertion of supremacy in the basis of military superiority. There is no longer any doubt about the strength and skill of American science, American industry, American education, and the American free enterprise system. In short, our nation's space effort represents a great gain in and great resource of our national strength." End of quote. Kennedy was also a visionary who saw the hand of God in America's purpose. And I quote, "We in this country, in this generation, are by destiny rather than by choice, the watchmen on the walls of world freedom. We ask, therefore, that we may be worthy of our power and responsibility, that we may exercise our strength with wisdom and restraint, and that we may achieve in our time and for all time the ancient vision of peace on earth, goodwill toward men. That must always be our goal, and the righteousness of our cause must always underlie our strength. For as was written long ago in Psalm 127:1, except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh but in vain." End of quote. I hope the thoughts and words of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy made you think about where we are today. I'll let you be the judge of whether or not JFK would recognize today's political parties. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. I appreciate you very much and look forward to seeing you here again on The Vantage Point. God bless and bye-bye.